Just earlier, Joe Biden addressed the nation on possible U.S. aid going to Israel and Ukraine. Joining me now to touch on some key takeaways from tonight's speech is One America's Tom McGrath.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. You know, I'll give him this. He was okay starting out, not for all of it, and I'll get to that later, but I'll remark on the things that I approved of.
Okay.
He acknowledged that Israelis were slaughtered on October 7th. The 1,400 plus Israelis that were slaughtered, including the 32 Americans, babies, children, mothers, elderly, also including the Holocaust survivors too. There was reports of them being shot right on the street as well and then dragged by the Hamas terrorists. Then he did make it a point to say Israel did not conduct that strike on the Baptist hospital in Gaza. He didn't say if it was Hamas or the Islamic Jihad, but nonetheless saying that it wasn't Israel. I think it would have helped if he attributed who committed that strike. But this is where he lost me. He said this, and I'm going to quote, "We can't ignore the humanity of the innocent Palestinians who want to live in peace and have an opportunity." That is all well and good, Tom, but here's the problem. 53% of Palestinians in Gaza right now support what Hamas is doing, support the slaughtering, the bludgeoning, the delimbing of the Israeli people. And that's not the only thing he said. Take a look at this.
As I said in Israel, as hard as it is, we cannot give up on peace. We cannot give up on a two-state solution. Israel and Palestinians equally deserve to live in safety, dignity, and peace. You know, and here at home, we have to be honest with ourselves. In recent years, too much hate has given too much oxygen, fueling racism, the rise of anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, right here in America. It's also intensified in the wake of recent events that led to the horrific threats and attacks that both shock us and break our hearts.
Someone should have told Biden before making that speech that the Hamas terrorists in Gaza right now, the Palestinians too, they don't want a two-state solution, Tom. What do you have to say to that?
So, like you were saying, I'll give credit where credit's due. He did acknowledge that Israel wasn't responsible for certain acts. And I would say that there are innocent Palestinians who will die as a result of this conflict.
Sure.
But there seems to be a double standard exercise in which if Israel kills civilians, they're reprimanded because they're a state. But if Hamas, who is a terrorist organization, does it, somehow that's permissible for them to hide in places like schools and hospitals. I didn't see too much, offensive rhetoric as much as a little bit of defensive rhetoric for Israel. But that being said, he mentioned also he was looking very puffy and shiny in that. I don't know if you noticed. Maybe his
certainly puffy. He should be nervous giving this speech. A lot of Americans aren't on board with what he's been saying in his recent actions lately. But to the point that you made about this double standard, the other side, let's go and look all the way back to Hamas's charter, to the Palestinians' charter, when the state of Israel was established in 1948. They want to wipe away Jews. They don't want a Jewish state. They don't want the Jewish people. They don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution, which includes the genocide on the Jewish people, the state of Israel to not exist. They've been saying this for years. Why aren't we believing them? Why won't America believe them? But that's not the only thing he said tonight, Tom. What other fun points did he bring up in this 20-minute speech?
So I would say if it was 1 minute and 30 seconds, it would have been a great speech. But after about that point, he begins to tie in Ukraine aid, which is very odd. So the speech was supposed to address aid to Israel, and instead he begins to talk about atrocities being committed or alleged atrocities being committed in Ukraine, which felt very odd. It felt very awkward. You should probably shoot straight. But the reason that he's doing that is because he's tying Israel and Ukraine aid together. Do you think that's an appropriate move on the White House's part?
I don't think it's appropriate to make this speech about Ukraine, though it is important to, mention, and you can make points about it. But he went on to talk about it for a couple of minutes there in light of this recent tragedy that happened, 2 weeks ago already. So you have a war that's been going on for a year and a half over there in Russia and Ukraine, and it's devastating, and none of us like it. But this speech was supposed to be about a particular thing, and I think it takes the time and the attention away from what's going on over there. Like I said again, Tom, we have how many hostages? 32 Americans right there? Our own people there. Why aren't we talking about that? Instead, he's talking about romanticizing this two-state solution deal while we have our people in the hands of Hamas terrorists. What do you think parents at home think about that. To know that the leader of the United States of America just gave $100 million to the Palestinians for humanitarian aid, we know it's not going to go there.